And there we go. So inside here, down the bottom, we've got our two bikes. They're nothing special, but they do the job. They get us from A to B. It's on a full extension slide out tray that you can see down there. Along the sides and here, I'll try and focus a little bit since it's a bit dark in here. We've got our beach bags, a couple of tools, bits and pieces. Over here, bodyboards, wetsuits, all that sort of stuff. Gas bottle box. I will actually pop this open because I know a few people, when I posted the photos, were pretty interested in it. So this is an internal gas bottle box. We've got two 4 kilogram bottles in here. And then the gas regulator and the gas bottles are attached in. Now for this to be compliant in Australia, there is actually, I don't know if you can really see it, but just there's a hole that goes straight through the bottom of the vehicle, and there's a hose as well for drainage. That's legally required in case there's a leak from one of the gas bottle fittings or the tubes or hoses. It can leak through the floor and it won't actually kill us inside the van. And I don't think you'll be able to see it, but you have to take my word for it. Just back there is a gas leak alarm as well near the gas bottle, just in case, as a backup option. So yeah, so that's one of the main reasons that we went for the Mercedes Sprinter van, just having these two big doors that we can open up. We've got the windows here, so this still allows light through when we want it, but we've got the privacy one-way vision cling that we installed, and as you can see, it's pretty effective. But yeah, just having this space under the bed, just to have the bikes, to have our boards, to have all our gear. Up the top we've got camp chairs, we've got a bag here with hammocks and bits and pieces, spare wetsuits, all that sort of stuff down there. You know, tools and spare parts of the van. Box up the front just with some spare shoes and bits and pieces. So everything that we need, you know, we're pretty minimalist, but we do need a few bits and pieces. And we've got space under the bed in our garage, we call it, to keep everything contained. And as you can see, there's still plenty of space above the bed. We can both sit upright on the bed. And on the left here, that's a recent addition. Just some of these $5 set of shoe organizers we bought from a department store and modified it, cut it to size and attached it just using a few screws. It's all Jala's stuff though, none of it's mine, so that's alright, somewhere for her to put her things, and I don't mind that. So up here, just to show you the bed from the back, we've got a double-sized bed in here. We've got at the foot of the bed, just the basics, carbon monoxide there on the wall, a shelf just to put our phones, keys, that sort of thing on, a couple of hooks to hang our keys and, you know, watch or whatever on there. A little stand to put our tablet computer. On the roof here, we've got the really awesome Max Air Max fan, and this is the deluxe model, which is the weatherproof model, and a little smoke alarm there on the roof. On the side here, we've got our wardrobe. So a third of it's mine, that's some of my stuff in here. Nothing fancy, it's just an area just to stack clothes and bits and pieces. It works really well. It's just on some aluminium U-channel, and this is a core flute, 5mm core flute, which you can buy from a signage store. I think it cost us about $15 for a big sheet that we used for these two, and on the side door and a few other places. It's really good stuff. It's lightweight, it's recyclable, does the job. Nice and clean appearance when it's closed. One thing that we kept in mind, because we don't have any windows on the side, we wanted to keep it as sort of bright and airy and spacious as we could. We didn't want the area to be too cluttered. On here you can see there's a curtain, which is a little dividing curtain to separate the bedroom from the kitchen and main living space up the front. We did this because there are times when one of us will be up in the morning and we'll be having breakfast or brushing teeth and getting ready while the other one's still in bed maybe. Having curtain allows us to just draw that closed and not bother the other person as much, sort of partition that space off. So yeah, we're pretty happy with it. The bed's awesome. We're really lucky that we can both sit upright. I'm 5'11", so even, you know, I'm an average height for a guy, and I can still sit upright in the bed and still have a bit of space before I hit my head on the ceiling, so it's nice to actually be able to do that. Now moving in through the side, we've got the main step up, kitchen. We've got another little fold-out table. The snap fastener on this one did work. I think I aligned it better with this one. But again, it's just a place to put things when we're having, you know, drink or something outside, or breakfast or something. It's just a place to put things down. Underneath, we've got space of shoes. Once again, it's almost all Jarla's shoes, just my hiking shoes down the end there. But that's okay. I don't mind. When you're sharing a small space, you do have to share it. So in this cavity here is the fridge, so that's why I've got these two vented louver vents, or whatever they're called. Basically, one's to allow air to be drawn in, and at the top here is for the air to come out, and I can feel the air coming out. Inside here, the fridge has a compressor and a fan on it, which blows the air around and pushes it out. Seems to be working fairly well so far. So here we are. It's not a lot of space, but it's a big step up from our previous vehicles. For us, it still feels really spacious, and we're really happy with it, even after we've been living out of the van now for a couple of months. A lot of people say with the whole stealth van kind of business that, you know, it's too claustrophobic not having windows all around the van. Well, first of all, windows let in heat during summer, and they trap the heat inside the vehicle like a greenhouse. And secondly, it's not really that great for theft, for privacy and security. And finally, I mean, we've got a massive sliding door here, you know, beautiful views, as you can see. We've got the back doors with the windows on the rear doors, and as you saw before, we've got our swivel front seats, and we've got a beautiful view from the front seats, whether they're facing back towards me or they're facing forwards. There's beautiful views. We get plenty of light. We've got our, again, another max fan, and we've also got in the bathroom another vent, so there's plenty of fresh air and light. And, you know, obviously the brighter tones of the walls and the cupboards does help as well. We've not had any problems. We've never felt claustrophobic. Even on days when it's overcast and a bit grey and a bit dark, it's still not been a problem at all, even if we have to have the side door closed. So here we've got our fridge. This is a Dometic, I think it's a CFX 110 litre. We've been pretty happy with this so far. Probably the only downside is it does use a bit of power. I think it's using about 40 to 50 amp hours a day. But for our battery system, that's fine. We can definitely cope with that. So it's looking probably pretty empty at the moment. But as you can see, there's plenty of space inside, and we've even got a freezer compartment up the top, and it hums along. It's very quiet. We don't hear it at night time. So we're pretty happy with it. Here's just a standard 3-burner stove that runs off the gas. That's connected to the gas in the back. Again, this is another, I think it's a Thetford model, and we've also got the Thetford sink here as well. I think this is a 10 litre sink, and it has like a little rack for drying on the side, and it just happens to fit our cutting board and a little drying microfiber cloth thing there on the side. So it works out really well. We've actually been really happy with this setup. Being able to close the lid. Sometimes in the mornings we'll have breakfast and we really can't be bothered washing the dishes. We'll only have a couple of things, so we'll just chuck it in there, close the lid, and we can leave it. And we, you know, at lunchtime when we have some more dishes and we can be bothered, we can wash it all in one go then. And yeah, the stove's been awesome as well. We've been pretty happy with it. Although, I don't know, when you own these things, you start to notice a few things, like they have this area here for a larger pan, but it ends up melting off the little indicator stickers for the knob and the corresponding hob. But that's alright. Aside from that, it's great, it works well, and it's easy to clean and looks pretty flash. And when we're not using it, we close it, and we've got that space to put things down on. We don't lose our space in our kitchen bench. So here is our main sort of dinette eating area. We've got LED lighting all along the roof and also underneath these overhead cabinets. And we've got a switchboard here for all the different lights. As you can see, they're on now. Works great. We made this ourselves for a couple of dollars of materials and switches on eBay for about $2. This is a Victron power meter, which basically has a little inline meter that's connected to the battery and measures how much is being used. And this is our cell balancer and monitor, which is connected to the lithium battery underneath the seat of the dinette. So everything in the van has multiple purposes. This area we use for doing work on the computer, for eating meals. The battery's stored underneath the seat. Relaxing, reading a book. We'll spin the seat around sometimes on a wet day when the side doors close. We'll spin the seat around forwards and chill and look at the view, park at the beach and look at the view out the front. It's worked really well for us so far. Put a couple of connector plugs here, USB and Sega jack, so we can plug in our computer or our phones to charge them as we need to. And overhead we've got these cabinets which use composite panel for the doors and also for the bottoms, and just some aluminium tubing and aluminium channel. And in the back you can see we've got the Victron 150 volt 35 amp solar charge controller, and we've got a DC circuit breaker as well that runs in before that, and that's connected to our 3 panels on the roof, and it goes through a waterproof cable pass-through on the roof. This area is basically just our junk, just cables and things for our phones and our camera, somewhere for it to go. In here we have our pantry, and this has worked out really well. One thing that we really didn't want to skip out on was having lots of space to store our foods. So as you see, it's pretty full actually at the moment. We just went shopping yesterday, so that's why things are stacked up a bit more than they normally are. But yeah, there's heaps of space in there for all our food. And we've also got, you can't really see it, but that's the back of the switch panel, and it's in a clear box, so we can't actually jag anything or pull anything out of place. Yeah, and we've got one of our fuse boxes for everything. I can't really handle the light with this camera, but anyway, there's a fuse box back there. So yeah, heaps of space to store food, heaps of space to prepare food, and enough space for us to eat food. The panels on the roof have been good. We did have a problem with some of the panels separating from each other, even though they're all screwed in. Just driving down some of those corrugated roads in far northern Australia just really worked them in. So I would recommend anyone who wants to use these tongue and groove pine panels, probably put it all together first, take it for a good drive on some corrugated roads, let it settle in and then paint it. Don't do what we did and put it all together, paint it all and then take it for a drive, because it probably will separate and then you have to spend a day, as we did, with a paintbrush touching it all up and going through all the cracks where it's separated and crack the paint. Anyway, you live and you learn. Again, this is a view underneath the bed. Everything's locked down. Anything that's not locked down is things that won't become too lethal and missile if we have to put the brakes on. This tub we use for temporary storage of groceries, bits and pieces, and it also doubles up as a step up onto the bed if we need a bit of a lift, because the bed is about a meter off the ground, so it is a bit tricky to jump up into it sometimes, so the bucket just helps as a step up. In the back here we've got 3 20-litre water canisters, and they're connected to a hose which runs up to the hand pump on the kitchen bench. The reason that we went with this solution rather than an undercarriage tank or a large single tank is that these are really easy to remove, take out the van, find a tap somewhere, fill them up and put them in. Whereas having a large water tank under the van means that we would have to go and find a hose and make sure that that hose outlet has a connection. So that's why we went for that solution, and we haven't been unhappy with that so far. Into the bathroom. Now, the bathroom will eventually have a shower. At the moment it's just the toilet, but like all things in the van, it's multi-purpose, and as you can see here, it is also a drying area. So we added this attachment point on the roof and the little swivel latch, and that just gives us a space to hang up our wetsuits and let them dry. I mean, we let them drip dry outside, and once they're sort of almost completely dry, we'll bring them inside and let them hang up in here for a while, and that way they're sort of, you know, it's out of the main walkway, and it's stored out of the way. And then at night time we can also hang them up the front on one of the little hook-on points there, so it's out of the way, it's not inside the bathroom. And that's worked out really well for us. Again, it's also spaces to hang our jackets, hang our towels. A lot of people say, oh no, we don't want a bathroom because it takes up too much space, you know, it restricts the amount of space inside the van, and yeah, for sure it does. You know, our van is definitely not as open as other vans that we've seen, but I tell you, having a bathroom inside the van, especially for Jala, even for me to a lesser extent though, is great, especially when you're stealth camping in the suburbs somewhere. It means you don't have to go outside when it's cold, wet and raining, you know, during the night to make a call of nature. You've got a bathroom, you've got a toilet inside, and for us, being that we love the beach, we love to surf, and we generally surf in cold water, having somewhere to put our wetsuits and dry them out is essential, because we have had wetsuits stolen in the past when we've left them outside. So keeping them inside, safe, let them dry out. Even when we lock the car up and go away for the day, they're still hanging up in here and they're still drying out. That's essential for us. I will show you the battery system. That is under the seat here. And as you can see, it's 4 lithium battery cells, 200 amp hour battery cells, and they're connected together in series, which makes a single 12 volt unit. And they're connected to a battery balancer, and then all the power is routed off through a resettable circuit breaker, and then it goes to the appropriate fuse boxes that go to all the different lights and devices. That back thing there, that's the shunt, and that's for the battery monitor. So that measures all the power that's being used, and basically collects the information and puts it onto the display, and that will tell us how full the battery is, how much power is being used, and so forth. It's working really well. Solar panel's working really well, even in this sort of sunny and sometimes gloomy overcast weather that we've been having. Our battery's pretty much constantly 100%. So all things considered, we're pretty happy with everything and how it's worked out. In terms of final thoughts, for anyone who's looking to do a build like this, I could probably offer a few key bits of advice. Now, probably the first one is be aware how long these builds can take and how frustrating they can be. This probably doesn't look like much to someone who is a carpenter or someone who's, you know, skilled with trades, but for us that we're not a tradesperson, this is 6 months of work, doing it obviously outside of work hours in the afternoons and weekends where we could. It took a lot of time. Definitely tested our patience. We had a lot of problems in terms of sourcing materials and getting the right advice, because we would be told sort of different stories and different ways to do things by different people. Don't underestimate how much time and effort these builds do take. You're looking at, as I said, over 6-7 months, 250, 300 hours of work in this as a minimum, I'd say. Don't underestimate the time and the cost that it takes to do any build project, and that also includes doing a van. Definitely, if you're not going to be living in a van, you just want a van to travel around with, I would say keep it simple, keep it really low cost, keep it simple. Build the basic things that you can pull apart, that you can redesign, because you probably will. You probably find certain things work for you, certain things don't. This design is really a culmination of many different vehicles and vans and systems that we've had in the past, and we had a pretty good idea of what we wanted and how we wanted to do it when we first started this process. And of course a few things changed through that process, but generally this resembles 90% of our original plans and designs. Secondly, I would say one of the most important things, and this is something that's almost caught us out, is to watch out for weight. Now, we were very careful from the get-go, given our previous experience with camper vehicles, of how important it is to keep the weight down. But the problem is you've got the base, for example, the swivel seat base, they're about 15 kilograms each. You've got the slider tray system for the bikes, well, that's about 30 kilos, and then the bike's about 30 kilos. The weight really does add up. We recently had the van weighed, and with all that stuff in it, you know, and plus extra water and extra fuel for when we were in the outback, we were, you know, not at the vehicle load limit, but we were close to it, and we wouldn't want to be carrying any more gear. Obviously, the less weight you have, the better the van will handle, the better it will run, the less fuel you use. It's just the benefits all add up. So be really careful when you're building these vans, when you're using, you know, not so lightweight materials such as this 12mm pine panels. You know, we've tried to use thin plywood and aluminium and lightweight materials as much as we could, but the weight still added up for us. Now, I've seen other vans where the people use recycled wood and pallet timber and all these things, and they look really cool, but I would hate to weigh those vehicles because probably none of them are actually a legal weight limit. They're probably all way over their design weight limit, which is known as a GVM in Australia, gross vehicle mass. Be really careful of weight. Weight is a major thing, and it can cause, you know, premature wear, damage to your vehicle, and accidents and death and all these nasty things. So be super careful of the weight. Every single thing in the van needs to be justified, and you need to try and find a lightweight alternative for everything. And again, be prepared to do a lot of research doing that, because if you go into a hardware store and ask them, they'll probably have no idea, because homes do not have the same weight considerations as a vehicle does. It's a completely different ball game. So that's probably the biggest thing. Be aware of how long these things take. Be aware about how much it can cost. Be aware of how frustrating it can be to get parts. For example, those swivel seat bases cost $1,000 and took about a month to actually source because they're out of stock in Australia, and it was quite a hassle in the end to actually install them. Nothing is simple and nothing is straightforward, and you see people with their vans, and I've got so much more appreciation for people's vans and their build outs, because the amount of work and effort that goes into them, you really only understand after you've been through the process yourself. So, you know, and be careful of the weight. The weight is definitely a big factor, and I don't think it gets brought up enough when people do tours. They kind of gloss over about the weight, and they're all using these like heavy materials, and the weight is really important. So just be careful of that where you can. Keep it simple, keep it light, keep it functional, make sure everything has got multiple purposes, and make sure that the build suits you and your needs. If you like this tour and you want to see some more photos of the actual build process and all the nitty-gritty details that I couldn't quite show you with the camera, such as the wiring and the circuitry and the switchboard and all that sort of stuff, check out our Facebook pages and also our Instagram page, which is also under Comfortably Lost, and our website, which is comfortablylost.com. Have a look, check it out. If you've got any questions, any queries, you want to know where I bought something, keep in mind we're in Australia, so not all these materials are you know, called the same thing or necessarily available in other countries. But yeah, if you got any queries or questions, please feel free, shoot them our way, and we'll do our best to help you out. Until next time, thanks for dropping in, and we'll see you soon. Bye.